as a special Halloween treat, and as research, mainly as that one, I'm going to do the most frightening thing anyone possibly can do, introspection. So, for the last few Rimworld series, none have hit. None have hit for me personally. People have enjoyed them, people are clearly watching them, I can still pay my mortgage and everything is fine, right? Viewership is pretty much the same as it's always been. But for me personally, I feel like something hasn't hit the same in as long as I can remember, and I want to see if that is actually true or whether I'm just losing my mind. So what I've done is I've loaded up the past 4 years of my life, 65 Rim series into the tier list, tier maker website. This isn't some cynical, easy content or anything like that. Quite the opposite. I'm going to go through every single one of these series, and I'm going to give my thoughts, opinions, my kind of behind-the-scenes feelings of all of them, and I think some of them might shock you, because I think what some people think I enjoyed, I probably didn't actually enjoy because of stuff that you didn't see, behind the scenes, and tech complications, and blah, blah, all that kind of garbage. So, let's jump in, and let's, really, this is for my benefit, to figure out what I enjoy about this game, and what, more importantly, is missing. So then, we'll start with the most recent series. Now, the order is random. This is just very coincidental. I mean, the series is a D. I think there was something interesting there. The first couple of episodes were probably the most overwhelmingly well-received episodes I've had in a very long time. They were funny. They had a lot of comedy elements. I think that was a good supporting cast, but the overall theme, the overall structure, the goals, everything was not well-formed enough. And it certainly couldn't get by on, haha, funny characters doing silly things. Margaret Thatcher smoking a joint with Dracula is only going to take you so far in a series. So that really didn't work. And honestly, I was too focused on building the base. Fully admit that. I got far too carried away with it, and I should have given up on it much sooner than I did. Bucko Drink, Pirate Space Race. I'm going to put that in a B tier. The reason I put that in B tier is, as I remember, it was quite enjoyable, and it was actually very easy to record. As with any wave-based survival, there is only a limited amount of time every day I can spend on it. Whereas with the last series, I could and was spending 8 hours a day building that enormous, hideous skeleton base in the Halloween series. With Bucko Drink and wave-based survival, there's only a certain amount of raids you can fit to a video, because I don't edit raids. Because if I edit raids, people I assume, I've never done it, so I wouldn't know, start assuming that, this character survived, that's a bit suspicious, or this character died, it's just for the drama, whatever. I try and avoid, because it's one of the big gameplay elements. It's the big gameplay loop. You can't really get around that. Enjoyable to record, or not necessarily enjoyable to record, but certainly left me with a bit more free time than usual, which I think is probably coloring my opinion on this. Was it a good series? I don't think it was when I go back and reanalyze it. It was wave-based survival on islands, which is interesting. The islands biome is a joy to play on, because it provides that level of difficulty that isn't inherent to raids or lack of resources, in that you have to plan your base out a little bit more, and you have to work around that natural obstacle, but you can also incorporate it, of course, as part of the defenses, which work well in wave-based survival. My point is, I think it was rose-tinted glasses for a lot of people. There was a lot of pirate madness, but when you actually go back and look at the series, there was no pirate aspect to it at all. The main character was a pirate, and that was it. The theme was not strong enough, and it just happened to be enjoyable because of I think a combination of different factors. Like I said, the islands, the wave-based survival, the strong main character, me being a bit more silly in that series, especially with the pirate music playing as being that kind of recurring motif. Yeah, I think it was fine. Blood Feast, I'll put it in C, and I'm going to be honest, it was bait. And I'm not saying it was bait as in I sat there and I rubbed my hands together and I saw the dollar signs. Haha, we'll add a waifu. No, obviously not. But I think people enjoy it. And I think people have a misconception of how good it actually was because they remember, ooh, and green. It wasn't particularly great to record because that was the first series where I tried out the dual ideology system, having the vampire slaves as one ideology and the vampires as a second one. And, it was kind of that weird combination of futuristic tech and a medieval kind of base design, and it was, I just don't know why people liked it, and I don't think I will ever understand why people like that series other than the main character being obvious waifu bait. And that doesn't appeal to me personally. I just do not give a shit about that. I don't understand why people liked it, and I don't think I ever will. Feel free to elucidate me down in the comments, but I just don't know what the appeal of that was. It had a strong theme, that I admit. You know, it did have a very strong theme. To me personally, it wasn't particularly enjoyable. You'll put that in D. Sue's Island. You know what? I'm going to actually put it in C because it was fun to play. And I remember having a good time playing it. What I didn't have was a good time trying to fix it every time it broke. It was a Christmas series. The Christmas series are always silly. They are always inherently broken from the get-go. Was the Sue series, from what I remember, the one where we started taking mods out? People voted on mods to take away? I don't remember. What I do remember, though, is it didn't work, and it was another series I ended up scrapping midway through. 7 Deadly Sins. I think I've got to put it in A tier, and I think the simple reason for that is the characters. There's this weird balancing act where, say, for example, the Halloween series, right? Those characters could not develop because they were who they are. You know who Dracula is. You know what the Wicked Witch does. You know what Frankenstein is. How do they develop from there? Unless they go through some crazy enforced character arc or something like that, there's not really anywhere to take them. There was a little bit of an inkling. There was something there when Dracula, you know, stopped being that coward for an episode. That was cool. But ultimately, there was no gameplay impact from that. I could have removed the coward trait, which, you know, is a directorial decision. There's some series that I'll talk about where I've taken directorial decisions and people have been pissed off at that, so I try and avoid doing it going forward. 7 Deadly Sins, though, all the characters, I think because they'd had a previous series to grow, all of them being taken out of their comfort zone and being thrown in that just horrible map. It was that kind of hell biome. I don't even remember what biome it was in hindsight. Was it one from Alpha, from Alpha Biomes or something like that? All taken out of the comfort zone, all thrown together, all had a very specific theme and a goal and something associated with the character. There was a lot of character arcs over that kind of developed naturally. General Joe becoming becoming kind of Dryadic, as I recall, and stuff to kind of that effect. Obviously, Arcadius building his enormous lusty base and then building Sue and getting out. There was a clear end goal for that series. That was fun. That was an example of a kitchen sink pack that worked compared to the Sue one that did not. Rise of Rome, or I suppose Rise of Reem. It's like it's a low B tier for me personally because it didn't do anything. What it was a themed series where the theme carried the whole thing. Now, I do think a strong theme is necessary, and I think a lot of the S tier, A tier, B tier series will be ones with a strong theme. In the case of Rise of Reem, or Rome, it was using a lot of very dodgy mods that made it very difficult for me personally to manage behind the scenes. There was a lot, I only vaguely remember this series because it was a very long time ago, of course, but there was some stuff in that didn't land very well, that people seem to have enjoyed. And again, it's one of those things that there's that kind of dissonance between what people enjoy and what I'm seeing. I feel like the whole point of that series was building a base, right? We built a lot of Roman stuff, and honestly, I think part of this, the reason this particular series floated is the same reason why Blood Feast floated. People like Rome. People like waifus. People like Rome. And I think that really did help that one. I don't remember the viewership stats or anything like that. I'm sure if I released this these days, it would be on the lower end of viewership, for sure. What is this one? Rimworld Ideology. Oh, Fursuit Crusaders. That's a D, but I don't know. Almost like a not applicable because that wasn't a real series. That was me having a look at Ideology. So I'm going to throw that down there. For the same story, I'm going to throw Hardcore SK down there as well. That was a mod pack that was heavily engineered to provide a different gameplay experience, a much slower gameplay experience that I simply could not ever play on camera. After the fact, there was some discussion about whether or not I should have been playing it because it uses like a customized version of the Rimworld launcher, maybe some illegitimate kind of modding techniques going on behind that, customizing the executable, stuff like that, blah, 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 whatever. I kind of kept it buried. I said I would play it on stream, but then all this stuff sort of started spiraling and discussions started popping up, and I ended up just kind of burying my head in the sand and letting it blow over. Just to give you a bit of the behind the scenes there. Because I thought, I don't want to interface with it, but I also don't want to say, I'm not doing it because of this. Otherwise, people would start losing their minds, because that's what people do. Jurassic Park, it's a low C, borderline D tier. I'm actually going to put it at high D tier because I remember the end of that series being an enormous grind. If I'm not mistaken, that was a series with Large Marge because John the Cowman came back from the original Jurassic Park. And in that one, it basically just became me collecting all the animals. Now, there's going to be a lot of series where they become grindy and they are going to the bottom of the list. And there'll be quite a few you'll see as we get through them here. When the series starts to become a grind, that's when I start needing to put them in the bin a bit more. I need to be less reluctant on hanging on to these things and seeing them through to the end, I will admit. I do want to see them through for the handful of people that enjoy that, but there comes a time where it is just putting bad creativity or good creativity after bad, and that was a good example of that. Grindfest, collectathons, people don't enjoy it. Rim effects are borderline not applicable. I'm going to put it in C because it had a strong, consistent theme, and that theme was Mass Effect. Here's why I'm putting it in C. I hadn't played Mass Effect at that point, or more specifically, I'd played Mass Effect 2 like maybe 10 years before and don't remember the story. I've since played Mass Effect 1, so understand it a bit more, and we'll probably be able to go back to the Rim Effect mod series and do better. That's going to be just totally average, neutral C, because I feel like it had a lot of potential, good, strong theme. Obviously, if you didn't like Mass Effect, you're shit out of luck. And I actually try and avoid doing theme series. For the simple reason that if you don't like Mass Effect, you're not going to probably enjoy the series too much. If you don't like Star Wars, you're probably not going to enjoy a Star Wars series too much. Same with the Elder Scrolls, blah, blah, blah. I might take some risks on them every now and again. Like, for example, playing, I don't know, a wild card. Mandalorians in a Star Wars universe. For people who don't like Star Wars, can just treat them as mercenaries surviving on a weird planet or something like that, right? So I would probably go for something like that in the future without it being like a main character. Like, you wouldn't play, I don't know, the Elder Scrolls mods with the Dragonborn or whatever. Rimworld loot box, actually A tier. And the reason I like this mod pack so much is because of the mod pack design, kind of simply. It was such a basic concept, let RNG do a lot of the deciding, and it ended up being a lot of fun. I remember having a lot of fun with that mod pack. I can't put my finger on why, because it was a long time ago, but I do genuinely remember that one being a lot of fun to play. Android Utopia. I would say that is a strong B, borderline A, and the reason for Android Utopia, again, solid theme. I think it got overly complicated with the combination of Android mods and especially the complexity of some of the Android mods in place. The series took a weird turn, but I think for the best. This is an example of a directorial decision that I think went right when the base got nuked, and I just decided, let's go to the fucking moon. As with any kind of Rimnort, save our ship style one, it does add that layer of complexity that can be a bit of a gamble in my experience. I think that was good. I think, as I recall, I asked ChatGPT what to do for that one just as kind of a bit of a gimmick, because I was interested to see what it would come up with. But I don't think why the series was good was anything about that at all. The initial premise it gave was so totally white bread. It was just like, androids, try and save the world. It's like, okay, that's really boring. But then we turned it into something good, and I think that came about naturally. That's why I think, again, B, high B, low A, definitely. Rimworld Cursed Planet. I'm going to put that low C, maybe even high D. The mod pack was a mess thematically. It was all over the place. We had the Forsakens, we had the Xenomorphs, we had those weird little cave horror things. It was a lot of difficulty without much payoff. There was no hope, and I don't think that's what people want. Conversely, though, Rimworld No Mercy, I would probably throw up at a high B because, again, the theme was very consistent. It was army people surviving against, you know, unimaginable odds. It was people raiding the base and having to build weird little kill boxes and shit like that. I don't like kill boxes. That was Combat Extended, if I remember correctly, right? Because you had to grow those weird fields of plants to create FSF or something like that. Either way, I remember that being pretty good, and it had a pretty good ending where they escaped the planet. And I do feel like things like Cursed Planet was trying to ride the coattails of No Mercy. That was me trying to capture, you know, lightning in a bottle twice, and it just didn't hit the same, and that's because it was just too grand compared to the previous one. If the theme was kept more consistent and it was a weird one, what I should have done, really, is something like they landed on a planet, it's totally medieval, and then having 100 medieval soldiers versus 10 highly armed, you know, modern-day soldiers or something to that effect. Glitter Void. Shit, it's like high A tier. And the reason I say it's high A tier, again, the theme was bang on. Such a simple concept. Void have a planet. We've got not equally as powerful technology, as we soon found out, but we had powerful technology, but even that was eclipsed by the Void stuff. And I think that allowed for a lot of moments where we're like, oh my god, this is insane, look at this stuff. But even then, we weren't overpowered, and that was the important part, because that's the problem with playing with the Void mod by itself, or even Glitter Tech by itself. Individually, they just simply do not work in base game Rimworld, because when you get to that high-end technology, you're unstoppable, there's no threat. That works really well. The balance was just great on that one, and was pretty good. Mech Defense Force, it's a low C tier. I was in the Robo Daddy trilogy, as I recall, kind of the third one. I was playing that one because Vanilla Mechanoids Expanded came out, and the whole premise of the mod pack, as I recall, was beat the mechanoids. Playing the mod pack, beat the mechanoids. That was it. It was a simple. Certainly, it was a very tight theme because there was barely anything to it. You know, there was no substance. It was too simple, in my opinion. Fucking Rimworld Christmas. Borderline not applicable because it's not a standard series. I'll be honest, I got fond memories of it despite the fact it was totally nonsense, and that's because it was totally nonsense. I think the comedy element, oh man, I'm going to put it low B tier. It was so silly and made absolutely no sense, and it was so flawed, but the story was, that's an example, I think, of a character like what I tried to do with the Halloween series, right? We got Santa, but Santa is malleable. Santa isn't necessarily... you know, something that's particularly set in stone. I mean, shit, you go from one country to the next in Europe, they've got different opinions of what Santa should be. Don't ask the Dutch. So, I think that was a great example of an established character entering Rimworld that was in a way that allowed me to do stuff with it, allowed it to be very malleable. And I quite liked that as a concept. Rimworld Flash, wow, I would never do a series like this these days because war crimes. It's just crap. It's such a flawed concept. It's so overdone. It's over-memed, and it's totally unoriginal. That said, when I played it, I enjoyed it a lot. I think the concept was man, where would I even put it? I'd probably put it like here. I'd put it like mid to high B tier, like a B plus. I think, oh man, I'd probably even put it higher than Bucko Drink. I'm looking at these thumbnails, and to me, they're not just like the thumbnails of the first series. This is bringing back like memories of me playing the mod pack, but also what was going on in my real life at the time and stuff like that. So I'm incredibly biased. But Rimworld Flash was some... It was just good. It was just fun. I don't remember how we started it. I don't remember how we got established, but there was a lot of weirdness to it. But the theme was consistent, that even though we were quote-unquote evil and war crime and blah, 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 we were playing characters without an established concept of morality, so that didn't really matter. And I think that really worked to its benefit, and it was... I think the main character being... Having that solid goal based around the main character was really helpful. And a good, strong supporting cast, too, if I remember correctly. Saved Their Ship, I'm throwing it in A, because that was a follow-up series to Save Our Ship, which was somewhere down here, right, if I'm not mistaken. Why? We'll get to it. Which was just a Save Our Ship series, where I used the, the Save Our Ship expanded model, something like that, and it was certainly an experience, let's put it that way. But I'm throwing that in NA because this was just a follow-on series where it was like, let's go silly with it, let's go crazy and see what we can do with it, and it ended up being a total wet fart. Like, the ending was crap. I think what it was is we came up against a ship where the modder intended you to board the ship. You couldn't get through it with weapons, and I'd spent ages building this crazy, ridiculous ship with all these weapons, and it just didn't work. It was just a conflict of, you know, what I was doing versus what the game expected me to do, or what the mod expected me to do. Space Simulation. I don't remember a damn thing about it. I think, as I recall, that was a sequel to Psychic Sushi Quest, right? Where Hocus and Mondo were actually on a spaceship all along. I'll be honest, I don't remember. I really just do not remember it at all. I'm going to chuck it in C. Similarly, I don't remember. I'm going to chuck it in low C, call it an average. Unkillables, I have fond memories of, because it wasn't, well, it was an interesting concept in that, of course, we had immortal characters, but they were against the environment, which I think is a cool concept that I do need to bring back at some point. Obviously, there's pollution in modern Rimworld, but that's a bit, it's again, like a little bit too easy, right? A little bit too obvious. This was cool, because I remember us having to build those crazy insulated buildings to try and survive, you know, the insane summers. It would go up to like 400 degrees or whatever, and then it would go to absolute zero in the winter. I'm going to put that, like, slightly below Blood Feast. Because I think that was a pretty alright series, if I recall. I don't know how it ended. I certainly wouldn't be able to pinpoint any specific interesting things about it. But that was it, hang on, was it not Sharamus the Orc, and then Jilp, and then someone else? They were like immortal characters from previous series that I brought back to do something different with, but I don't remember the conceit. Well, I'm going to be real with you. Seven Dwarfs, I actually enjoyed playing because it had a good theme. And again, I think, much like Santa, another good example of a character coming in from an established franchise that was that had a twist on it. Here's the problem. There was a mod inherent to that mod pack that made the whole thing tick, and that was the Z levels mod, and it was broken. It was called Deep Rim, I believe. I should probably try and get the right mod. It was broken. There was some really weird, hard to replicate bug that persisted across saves. It's like it was once you loaded into a broken save, if you then loaded into another broken save, that save would then go on to be broken. It was just something inherently strange about it. Yeah, besides that, I actually enjoyed it, because the idea of defiling nature and chopping down those big, beautiful fields of flowers and replacing it with oil drills and stuff like that, there is something interesting there, but it never got off the ground, as with all the Dwarf series. Robo Daddy himself, I mean, it's got to be a high A tier, right? And the simple reason is, single character series for me are a joy to record. I can sit down, it's 30 minutes of one character, it's easy to focus on the bits that matter with that, his traits, what he's dealing with, his moods, his opinions, everything, because it's one dude. The smaller cast series do work pretty damn well, especially with something like 7 Deadly Sins. You might think, well, that's not a smaller cast series, right? But it was only ever 7 characters. And there were 7 characters that we understood the motivations and the backstories and everything for, right? Royal Trio. I'm going to be real with you. I don't remember a damn thing about that. That was years ago. That was... I do remember the base design, but I don't remember any of the characters or... Oh, man, what was the plan for that one? Was that just like get Empire ranks? I don't remember. There's like something vague in the back of my mind, but I can't place anything on it. Community Hardcore. What a terrible thumbnail. Awful. Right, really just terrible. I think I'm going to drop that in... I don't remember much, but I remember polling the audience and asking for what they want me to put in a mod pack, and that was a shit idea. Honestly, I'm going to put that in like D, because that's such a terrible idea for a series concept, having the audience build the mod pack. Not going to work. Never would have worked. Elven Exiles. I'll be honest, that's probably like a high B tier. That was, again, a solid theme that I think went pretty damn well. I think it was quite a simple concept, right? It's medieval fantasy with a bit of magic, and we've got to survive, and we've got to build a base. And that was it. It was building a castle, exploring the technology, getting a lot of magic, and that was it. It was very, very straightforward, but I think it was a lot of fun. I don't remember anything specific, because it was years ago. Rimworld Predator. Literally do not even remember doing this series. I think I downloaded someone else's series. I've got very, very vague memory of it. Something about going from a ship down to a planet and hunting creatures, but it didn't really work well. That's like a low D tier, because that was like not even worth keeping on the channel. Assimilation, definitely high tier. Definitely high A tier. I think I'm going to drop it there. Assimilation, solid concept. Again, a joy to record. Wave-based survival. Means that I don't have to spend 8 hours a day just hitting the record button, but people really liked it. I don't know how wave-based survival would be taken these days. I think I think it really is a Marmite type mod. You either love it or you hate it, but if you get the balance right, I'd argue it's better than base game Rimworld, but that's just in my opinion. I think it's something I need to explore and plan out a little bit better if we ever do go back to web-based survival, but it certainly does make my life easier. Outside of that, fantastic theme. You know, it was just simply robots. Just simply robots ascending through the robotic ranks. We got to take our tier 1 android all the way up to tier 5, which we did. I don't remember the ending. I'm sure we must have nuked the planet or something like that, right? It was pretty standard stuff. But as I recall, that was a fun time, and I think a lot of people enjoyed it. Dino Science. Back when ignorance was bliss. I think that was an interesting concept for a playthrough. I don't think it went anywhere relevant. I'm going to drop it into low C tier. I don't remember enough to really give a good bit of feedback on that, I'm afraid. I vaguely remember we had a well-defended map and we were just capturing dinosaurs. Let's get another collectathon. Honestly, probably high D tier instead. I'm going to save like a lot of C tier for I simply just do not remember. But I do remember the general idea of that, and with hindsight, it was not a good idea. Rimworld Contagion and Undead City, I think, were back-to-back series, right? Or something similar to that effect. Contagion, I don't remember. It's probably I rebalanced things and started with an easier start, something like that. It was in like an abandoned city. Was that the one where we had like 1 million zombies coming over a bridge? It was impressive, but again, I've got no strong feelings on it either way. And similarly, same with Undead City. It's zombies. There is, I still think, something left to be tapped for zombies. The last zombie series I did was Monkeys versus Zombies, which we'll get onto later, of course. there's something there. There is something to... there's something I do enjoy about people versus environment, not against factions. But it's a hard thing to grapple with, particularly with modern Rimworld and its many, many complexities with xenotypes and ideology and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot that the game just expects every single colony to do, and sometimes player versus environment doesn't work with that, without getting too much into inside baseball. I don't know, it just doesn't... I feel like there is something there, but I feel like it's very difficult to balance, especially with modern Rim. Convergence, meh, solid D tier. It was just, here's all the characters from previous series. It's a kitchen sink mod pack. What you're noticing here is a lot of the kitchen sink mod packs are being dropped into D tier, and it's just kind of par for the course, really, isn't it? I just don't think they work well. They're just mod packs that do everything, everything but nothing particularly well, right? Here's probably a controversial one. The RPG Adventure mod pack. Honestly, I would put it like low to mid C tier. And I know a lot of people loved it. A lot of people said, oh, that's different. Let me tell you right now, 16-hour workdays are not enjoyable. Because that series was recorded a very, very long, convoluted episode where I had to come up with goals, whether that was looting stuff or you know, bear in mind I said we weren't going to do any building that series, and then the game ended up being so hollow, I said, fuck it, we'll build a castle. It was a little bit of character development, sure, and it certainly had a very interesting concept, conceptually very unique. And in terms of execution, I don't think it worked. And, you know, I'd record these very complex episodes where I had to come up with things to do. There was a lot of combat, and there was a lot of juggling character stats and blah, blah, blah. Eventually ended up becoming build base. And after I was done with that, we'd immediately start work on modding it and doing some stuff behind the scenes, whether that was, you know, doing some more localization, so changing the name of, like, Plasteel to Mithril or blah, 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 blah. And it was too much to juggle. And it soured it for me. I know a lot of people love that, but I don't have massively fond memories of it, admittedly. Vampire Prison, I'm going to be real with you. I don't remember this at all. It's borderline NA. I'm just going to say I don't remember it. It's low C tier. Jilps, so many Jilp. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say every Jilp besides the first one, D tier, because they were all trying to... I think the first one was a really cool concept, and I think that was something I actually might revisit quite soon. I'm going to put that actually low A tier for the first Jilp. The reason I say that is the concept was kind of fun. It was one dude, naked survival, nothing at all, and the concept was if we died, that was it. It was like Iron Man mode. Jilp dies, series restarts, right? And that's a cool concept. That's a cool idea, and it actually might be something I go back and do as kind of a palate cleanser series. Bring back Jilp as Jilp was meant to be brought back many, many years down the line. I think all the others were me just doing it over and over and over again, and it got a bit stale after a while, but certainly it was I think it was a pretty good concept, and I think I genuinely might go back to that at some point. Star Wars, Kropvush, I do have memories of this. I think it was fine. I remember the intro animation. That was the first time, if I'm not mistaken, I did a kind of fancy intro for it. Now, it wasn't animated at that point. That was just kind of almost stop motion, and the way I would do that is I'd hide the UI, pause the game, set the characters a move route, queuing up with shift, and then as they move through the route, I would slice the video, so like pause it, have them turn direction, slice those bits out, and then line it up. Honestly, massive pain in the arse when you got things like light sources and fires and stuff like that, because you have to line it up perfectly, and eventually I just did it all with keyframing with Premiere instead, like traditional animation instead. But yeah, no, that I do have fond memories of that one. That was pretty good. It was a strong theme. You know what? I'm going to put it high C tier with Rim Effect for exactly the reasons I talked about in Rim Effect, right? If you didn't like Star Wars, you probably weren't interested. It's not something I certainly wouldn't do these days. Your thumbnail game got a lot better pretty fast, didn't it? Damn, I should do one of these, but for the thumbnail game. I'm real with you. My favorite thumbnail I've ever made was like season 1 of Jur Egypt, which is actually coming up. I still think that one is the best one by a long way, but maybe let's not worry about that too much. King's Crusaders. That was Bonnet Bigley and his two mates whose name I don't remember, but I think I gave them like real dumb Anglo-Saxon names like, you know, Dave Smith and stuff like that. It was the first ever foray I did into medieval Rimworld, as far as I recall. I have some fond memories of it, but that's, I mean, I barely remember what I did last week, so asking me to remember something I did 4 years ago is kind of a stretch. I'm going to put it like slightly higher C tier, because I do think at the time it was an interesting twist. Second series I ever did, or technically third series I've ever did, Gene Corp with my good friends Donitz Benga. I do remember him. That was where we had the Thrug. Oh my god, this was the first one, if I'm not mistaken, that I ever used any of Sarge's mods. This was the one I first used, Genetic Rim, I think, and stuff like Xenobiotic Patcher, and we had Questionable Ethics. That was it. I actually remember a lot about this series. I don't know why this one stuck with me, but we ended up at the end of the series breeding like those massive, horrible monsters. This was back when Genetic Rim had the, I'm gonna put it politely, dodgy artwork. And I hope Sarge would probably agree with me. Obviously, it massively improved since then, okay? It massively improved pretty fast. I remember when it got retextured, I was like, wow, this looks amazing. Obviously, now it's vanilla genetics expanded or whatever it is. Yeah, no, I do have vague memories of that series, if I'm remembering the right one. And that was one where I started relying heavily on robots and like deep storage and really started experimenting with a lot of different mods in tandem. That was what kind of kick-started all the big mod packs, realistically. Before that, though, there was the Cult of Igor, and that was very simply play the Cult mod. It was fine. I don't remember much about it, because, again, this was 4 years ago. I'm going to drop it low C tier, because, again, I don't really remember. The Arena, the thing that started it all was a crossover series. Elrang, Diswalt, Everqueen, Jerry King, characters from Crusader Kings I bought into Rimworld because the patrons voted, play this little game called Rimworld. It's in the game. You might like it. And here we are. Honestly, I just don't remember. It's probably crap. It probably hasn't aged well at all. It's probably just me fanning around with the UI for the first 30 minutes of a video or whatever. The Hive. Honestly, I got good memories of that one. I think that one was pretty good. I think that was a pretty tight theme. It did, as everything post-Biotech does, devolve into genetics. But of course, that's a side effect of releasing a DLC based on genetics. It does, certainly dilute your end game options when it all kind of becomes, very ironically, convergent evolution. Monkeys versus zombies. Now, I'm going to hit you with a real fucking curveball here. I think, in terms of theme, that might be my best work. And this isn't a bit. This isn't a meme. I genuinely think that it's such a pure concept. Here's the problem. I feel like the main characters were particularly depersonalized because they were simian people. They weren't humans. And I feel like for the most part, a lot of people probably switched off to that. But the concept of it was so fucking good. I think that's got to be an S tier. As I recall, there was a lot of people contributing to that one, like lots of little mods that popped up and people kind of giving feedback and ideas. But that was certainly I have very, very strong feelings towards that one. I think that one was a lot of fun, and I think it was such a cool concept and such a cool idea, and genuinely this isn't a meme. I think I remember that one the most fondly out of almost every series. We're getting into some actual slappers right now. Great Machine War. Shit, I think it's quite, funnily enough, Glisservoid in energy. To sandwich it between Glisservoid and Robo-Daddy is very appropriate. Again, fantastic concept, really cool mods. That we were looking at Aoba's Warsuit mods in that one, as I recall. Yeah, really cool concept, great starting biome, very simple stuff. You are on a mechanoid planet, survive. And you know, escape and try out all these different tech mods that I hadn't done before. That was really fun, and we had some really cool stuff going on there. Vanilla Sidecasting Expanded, there was that Matrix-style sidecasting mod, if I remember, and kind of a very heavy Matrix theme, and I enjoyed playing that one a lot. I think that one was pretty damn good, and big explosive battles and warfare and lots of survivability, which is always a fun time to play. You know I gotta do him. My boy's going right up to S. Now, this is the series I was talking about with the controversial directorial decision when I had, I did that kind of cutscene where one character killed two of the other characters, and lots of people were like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Even though I do still think in hindsight and have my reasons for doing that, because it would have made things very complicated and honestly quite stale. I remember that one fondly, and I think the thumbnail, 10 out of 10. It's just characters wearing clothes ultimately, but sometimes that's really all you need to showcase it, right? That was amazing. You know, I really did enjoy that series a lot. I think it had a lot of interesting themes. I mean, the main theme, of course, the core theme was great, The kind of secretive robot characters hidden away behind the temple was a fun little twist. The community aspects of it and the building was a lot of fun. There were some really good story beats. Was it not Wes that was kidnapped and then ended up coming back leading an army? Lots of people are always skeptical. Oh, you did that on purpose, or that was dev mode. It genuinely wasn't. And you want proof that I don't do shit like that in dev mode? How about everything below B tier being shit? That's the thing. For every one good series with crazy moments like that, there is another 200 episodes of Rimworld where shit all happens. And I think people forget that because they don't watch the bad. They don't remember the bad. They watch and harp on the good. Why can't it be as good as Jur Egypt? And that is definitely something that I've started to disregard a lot of people's opinions in the Discord regarding what they think makes a good series, because people wear rose-tinted glasses for a lot of what they consume, I think, and that's why I'm trying to gather empirical data from the actual survey more than anything else, because I think there's definitely a disconnect between, and you got to remember as well, like people only will they'll drop series pretty early on, and from that point, they've got no real way to judge it. And then they'll say, well, this series was good. And I'll say, well, what about this? Oh, I didn't watch that one. So it's really hard to, it's hard to get a cohesive perspective from people who haven't experienced the full gamut, right? When you're only watching the good series, obviously some of the new series are going to be more disappointing because you've cherry-picked the good ones. It's a lot of bias. Anyway, yeah, no, that was series 10 out of 10. Good theme, great concept. Honestly, this one's also a banger, in my opinion. I think I had a lot of fun playing this one. Again, solid, simple, straightforward theme. Let's play the Empire. That's it. Let's just play the Empire. And that was the goal. Obviously, now with Deserters coming out, it might be worth returning to something like that. And kind of bring back with that idea. I think a lot of what worked for this series was the theme of the Empire, the conceit of the Empire, the kind of ethos behind it lends itself really well to Rimworld base building, right? Because that's kind of how it goes, especially post-royalty. There's a lot of mods for that. There's a lot of design decisions based around that, and it was just a very easy time to apply it. But for Deserters, when it's more about survival, I'm not sure. I've got to still look at the mod in better detail. Arco Nexus was me trying, effectively, again, just another test mod pack. Me testing out the Arco Nexus ending. It's C tier. I don't remember too much. I remember Jilp died, and was it Starlight? Oh, God, I don't think I'm remembering that correctly. Someone stole his title, basically. Genetics. Oh, man. In theory, good idea. In execution, I remember that was one that had a bit of a false start, and I restarted, and then it got kind of dull. It's another one of those concepts that I've talked about before, the man versus environment, and I do enjoy that as a concept. This one didn't really work, as far as I remember. Tech versus magic. Look. This is about what I think of them. I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people weren't so necessarily into that. It was very Robo-Daddy in concept. It certainly was. You can see I directly ripped off I can't really rip off myself. I directly referenced the thumbnail of Robo-Daddy with Tech versus Magic with the two bots either side. I don't know if many people caught that. Maria Chunk? Was that her name? She was great, and obviously the Robot Companion event ended up, it was never the original plan, but it did end up being, was it? Maybe it was. The original plan was to... Well, whatever. Anyway, it ended up becoming a prequel to Generations, right? Do I have Generations on this list? No, I don't. I've somehow missed Generations. I don't know how the fuck I managed that. Whatever. I'll download it in a minute. Yeah, no, Maria Chunk was, I think that was a great series. I think that was a lot of fun. I think it was silly. I think it was overpowered. I think the balance was all over the place. The map was certainly an interesting map design. Very straightforward, very simple but decent theme. I had fun with it, but I don't think it hit well for the audience. Feel free, again, to correct me if I'm wrong there, but that's the impression I got from a lot of the feedback I saw. It was about what I think. Listen. I gotta be real with you. I enjoyed the concept of Cringe's Chocolate Factory. I think the theme was solid. I think it got stale so quickly, even though I was very silly. That was a series that I had to put in a lot of effort being silly to keep it afloat. And I don't think it hit in the way I wanted it to hit. Obviously got bogged down with the cringe corridor. That's a great example of a mid-series lull that killed the rest of the series. Rimworld Heroes, high tier, for sure. Again, definitely very tight theme. Problem with that series, that took a lot of extra effort too, because that was a series I was doing those custom Smash Bros. Style character intros for each one. Strong concept. They built a League of Superheroes, right? Decent concept. You're a really cool mod keeping it afloat. That was the first time I'd used Vanilla Engines Expanded, as I recall. And, you know, just like a good combo of theme and starting map and everything else. I built Loss on the map of that one. Don't know how many people caught that, but there you go. There's a little Easter egg. Yeah, no, that was good. That was fun. I think towards the end it got a bit dull. But I definitely think that deserves being upper A. I have fond memories of playing that one anyway. Medieval Undead, I think was a series that shit the bed. I'm going to put that low C tier. Side Hustle, actually like low A. Maybe low to mid A, to be honest with you. Side Hustle was a lot of fun. It was a lot of characters coming from the second channel, right? But in Rimworld terms, they were blank slates that could develop. And that had that legendary moment. This is an example of one of those moments like in Dryad where Wes came back, where in this series, in that final battle, we had all the people we sold drugs to over the course of the series coming to back us up against that final raid. Again, not something I did behind the scenes. That was not some dev mode shenanigans. That was not some, you know, engineered shit. That was one of those once every 5 series moments that makes it worthwhile. And again, look at how many bad series there were. Wrathful Gods. People enjoyed Wrathful Gods. I did not enjoy Wrathful Gods. It was boring. It was tremendously boring. I'm gonna drop that as like a high D tier. On Rimworld. On paper, great. This series I let down because the mid-game lulls. The medieval era, especially, totally boring. Went on for far too long. Was totally uninteresting. And when I do Generations 2, the medieval era will be something new, something different, something unique. We'll take it in a weird direction. Maybe we'll embrace magic, you know, instead of it just being fucking knights in armor. Boring as hell. Totally uninteresting. I think the industrial, and then the final part of the series, because I was so desperate to try and make up time that I lost over the medieval era, I blitzed those last few ages, and that kind of killed it too. That's a great example of a series putting good creativity behind bad. The bad with the medieval era, the good with the, with kind of Admus. That storyline was a lot of fun. That was finally some emergent storytelling. Far too late. Honestly, I would probably, I'm so bitter about that series. I'd probably shut that. Would I sooner play? I'd probably drop it all the way down there. That was always an experiment. That was a flawed concept, and I totally understood that, and I mentioned that to people when I was building the mod pack, and when I explained it to, like, Oscar and Sarge, they were both like, it was a silly time, and it was a shit idea, and I knew it was a shit idea going in, and I fully expected it to be crap, but I'm annoyed because that was at the embers of something really good that really could have turned into something special, and it just never got off the ground. Partly blame unkillable characters, but hey-ho. Catharsis, bizarrely, lots of fun. Lots of fun. Yeah, lots of fun, I think, is about all I can say about that series. The theme was interesting, didn't hit. That, honestly, was part of me just looking to, like, play a series purely for fun. I didn't really capture the magic, but there were some silly moments that a lot of people very enjoyed. A lot of people enjoyed that series. It's about what they enjoyed, because if it was based on that, it'd probably be quite a high tier. For me to play it, it was, again, a very slim cast of characters, which made it really easy to manage and to understand, and more importantly, to convey to an audience. It's in B tier somewhere. Where would I put it? I'd probably put it like, I'm going to drop it high B. I'm going to drop it high B tier. When I look at these, they give me a feeling, just like a gut feeling, and I think that's where that deserves to be. Granny's Ranch. Marmite. It's a Marmite series. People either loved it or they hated it. People love the community aspects, the more simple aspects of it. The conceit, of course, was let's breed the fluffiest Muffalo, and then that ended up being a massive pain in the ass because Muffalos have a long gestation period, and they also like the game to fuck, which is a lesson I've learned 100 times before, but for some reason thought this time it'll be different, and then it wasn't. It's a low B tier. I think the base design on that one was very good, but people don't watch for the base design. Blood Empire? I think it was what it was called. This could be controversial. I was so bored by the end of this series. I would say I was bored of this series by the halfway point. It got up to that grindy stage that I've talked about before. Where would I even drop that? I'm going to put that, like... This could be very controversial. I'm going to drop that, like, real low C tier, because it just was not interesting. The big problem with that one was there was a lot of Discord-related drama involving some of the characters, and it totally killed my enthusiasm for it. And it's something I tried not to convey over in the videos, but it's definitely worth bringing up now, given that this is the introspection aspect, the no-holds-barred total honesty aspect. I felt like that series was... I feel like that was out of my hands. I feel like it was out of my hands. And I felt like the goal was fine. The goal to become Empress or whatever the rank was fine. I should have started working on it from episode 1. I had no idea the extent that it would take to get to that particular point, because I never played it before. Now, knowing that, I wouldn't do it a second time, but I wish I'd have started it earlier on. But again, I feel like it's a series that had some other complications outside of it. Vehicle Wars. It was a mod pack to look at a mod. It goes mid-C tier. You know, it wasn't particularly interesting. Dr. Phil was a cool character, though. Biotech Beginning. A good cast of characters. A Sanguiphage, a Mechanator, and then the... I don't remember what Frog was. She was just a... No, Frog became the Sanguiphage. What happened to... I can't remember the lady's name on the right now. Either way, it was a series looking at biotech, so it's mid-C tier. The Cults of Cthulhu. Catgirls in a Cave Worshipping Cthulhu, if you want the code name. Shit. Really not good. I think I would probably put that as a... look, the theme... Can't deny it was pretty good. As I recall, there was a lot of floundering, a lot of flailing around, and a lot of not enough getting done. The cult mod I don't really intend on going back to. It's kind of like Rimworld Magic, where I played it enough, and it also feels very dated at this point. It's an old mod, and I feel like we've all moved on. I'll put it there, but that's not... You know, it was silly. It was a silly idea. Dryad Queen, great concept. It's probably an A tier, in my opinion. It's probably like, wow. I'd probably pop it there. I think it was a great concept. It was a cool idea. You know, there was lots of good restrictions that helped with the gameplay. There were no complicated xenotypes. The ideology was very straightforward. It had a simple conceit. Use Dryads to defend the base. Don't commit violence, and blah, blah, blah. It was good. It was a good, solid, tight theme that worked really well. Here's what I'm going to do then. I'm going to reorganize these, looking at them now. Generations. Oh my god, I forgot Generations 1. Stand by. And here we go. The main man himself. The series that really put me on the map. Rimworld Arco Seed. It was a great concept. And it was certainly that second episode, if you remember, where I invented the generation concept. I'm sure someone had done it before. What I'm saying is for like where I conceived of this idea of having them go from the medieval era all the way through to the Ultra Tech or the Arco Tech era. That was always the plan, but with the twist that aging was a lot faster and they had to have kids, which of course in Rimworld at that point was unthinkable. This was way before Biotech and before Ludion stole my idea. Honestly, you know I gotta do him. That's right, he's going in mid-C tier. It wasn't that fun to play. You never saw it coming. As I recall, I was under so much pressure to make that series good because everybody loved it that I could not have fun playing it. The amount of times I would retake episodes and meticulously edit things down. Even then, the editing style is nothing compared to what it is now, right? I'm a much more faster paced in terms of series speed at this stage. But... my god. My god. I think that was a monolith of a series that, as per usual, when it got to the final few years, became boring as fuck. Because the end game of Rimworld is always, let's see who can make the biggest number. And in this case, we have Science Never Stops, which is effectively take your biggest number you've ever seen and put another few zeros on the end. It was, The balance was all over the place. I remember having to constantly fix stuff up between episodes. I don't know why people enjoyed it. I think it was a fresh concept that maybe no one else had done. I don't know. I don't watch anyone else play Rimworld. I'm too busy making it. I don't know. I just don't know why people enjoyed it, but I'm glad they did. I think it was, again, I just think it was the concept itself was something we hadn't really seen before. But now with me having done everything and with everyone else on YouTube having done everything, I don't think that could ever happen again. That was lightning in a bottle. That will never, ever happen again. It wasn't fun to play, but I'm glad people enjoyed it. And that, I think, is probably my list. Do I want to reorganize anything? Well, let's go through from bottom to top then. Won't touch NA. In terms of D tier, honestly, I think this is all fine. I'd probably put that higher. Maybe I'm being hard on it because it's like recent and I don't remember how good it was. Honestly, I think there's too much in C tier. I think this comes down to D tier. I think this comes down to D tier. I'm looking at these from a current me perspective. And I'm thinking a lot of these are total shit that people probably wouldn't even go back and rewatch. Psychic Sushi Quest, no theme, nothing to it. Honestly, Wrathful Gods deserves to be higher. Honestly, Wrathful Gods can go to C tier. Did it have a consistent theme? Not really, so it doesn't deserve to be in there. Space Simulation, again, no consistent theme. Royal Trio was just me trying out royalty. If anything, I'd probably stick that in. Honestly, I think the problem is I put a lot of mods where it's just me testing stuff out in D tier. Sorry, in C tier, but unless they hadn't appealed themselves, why are they in there is what I'm finding myself asking. King's Crusade is garbage. Put that shit down there. I apologize if these like, oh, my favorite series. Now, look, Medieval Undead, it's another Hocus and Mondo series. Didn't go anywhere. As far as I recall, that was actually kind of crap. So I'm going to put that, like, here. Unique concept, poor execution, as with a lot of these. Genetics, same story, come lower down. I don't think it deserves to be D tier. Star Wars series, what was the conceit? It was Star Wars, great. Rim Effect deserves to be lower, for sure. Ooh, do I think all of these are C-tier series? I think this is looking a little bit better. Let's go to here. Let's drop Christmas down to D tier. Gene Corp. Look, I was too generous on that because of nostalgia. It was a shit series. I think I'd put it very, very low C tier. It was at least a cohesive idea. God, the thumbnail was bad. It was at least a cohesive idea that had some strong foundations, and that's all I'll say about it. I don't think the presentation style or anything really holds up at all. I'll move you down for the same reason. Maybe RPG series I was too hard on compared to some of these others. I will raise it up to being like there. I think the Christmas series deserves to be lower because I mean, it broke. The series broke. It should be D tier. No, it didn't work. Put it down there. Genetics got off to a rough start, but actually redeemed itself. Mr. Cringe, kind of the opposite. I think these are all fine in C tier. I'll bring that down. I'll bring that right down. Unkillables. Again, interesting concept, poor execution. Let's drop that right down too. I think that's okay. B tier. I think Elven Exiles needs to come down. The concept was good. Honestly, I would probably put that like mid C tier looking at this. Now that I've sorted this all out and I can see them all lined up, I've got to ask myself, do these deserve to be in the same? But what I needed was more tiers, to be honest. B tier. Are these all strong B tier series? You know, I think Rise of Reem needs to come down. I don't think it was that good. When I think of series I love, let's avoid, yeah, honestly, I would probably say, reordering, let's reorder this tab, because I think it's a bit messy. I would say, Prepare to Die needs to come down to like a low B tier, maybe at most. The concept is incredible, it needs modernizing, and I think it could be pretty good. Oh, man, Seven Dwarfs, let's put it, honestly, Granny's Ranch, though I had fun playing it, was so simple. Let's put it there. Seven Dwarfs broke, but was really fun for me to play, and I think I had a cool concept. That's fine there. That's fine there. Flesh, yeah, good. Catharsis, honestly, I'll probably swap those two. Android Utopia, honestly, I'm going to put it up to 8 here. And I'm thinking, do I prefer Android Utopia or Side Hustle? Well, I prefer Side Hustle. Do I prefer those? I prefer Android Utopia. Actually, now that I'm doing it like this, I'm seeing that either these I've overrated or Android Utopia I'm not giving enough credit to. Right, okay. Simulation, honestly, I'm going to drop it down. Ooh, Father of Machines, I think needed a bit more love than it got. So let's drop that down a bit. Glitter Void, Great Machine War. Honestly, I think Great Machine War was better than Glitter Void. Monkeys versus Zombies versus Dryad. I can't put Dryad at the top. Okay, fine. Yeah, swap those. Because I think Heroes had a lot of effort, and I think that really showed. I hope it showed. Loot Box was better than Deadly Sins. Deadly Sins or Father of Machines. I think Father of Machines is a better concept. Deadly Sins or Dryad Queen. Oh, man. I think Hive is too high. I think Hive is way too high. Because it did just devolve into make big monsters, which I'm trying to avoid. Side Hustle, honestly, is only so high because of one legendary moment. I'm going to drop that down. I really think that is a little bit too high. Honestly, maybe that's like a C tier. Yikes, I'm pushing on my series so far down the list. Jesus, fuck. God, has anybody got anything they disagree with here is a better question. I really am trying not to judge them too hard based on age, but it's really hard not to, given that you would hope with age and experience comes improvement, right? However, I think that's it. I think I'm going to leave it there. I think what is clear is there's certainly a pattern between the higher tier series, and it's very simply theming. You know, tight, consistent, obvious theming, a strong through line, whether that is the RNG style system, the machinery, the superpowers, whatever. What makes a Dryad or a Monkeys versus Zombies? It's just the uniqueness of it, I think. Just the freshness, the difference between that and everything else. You could argue Great Machine War, you know, very similar to Father of Machines in concept. You know, Heroes, very similar to, I mean, arguably any of the superpowered series, right? Seven Deadly Sins, Tech versus Magic to some extent kind of covers that. The Empire Experience, again, is another strong themed series, but that's all that there really is about them. So I think with that in mind, I'm going to go back to the drawing board with some of my ideas, of which there are very fleeting these days because we've done them all, and I will, I'm going to keep this in mind. I'm going to keep this in the back of my mind when I start putting mod packs together and start designing things going forward. I'm going to look at this and say, what made these work and what made all of these? Honestly, I consider anything C tier and below just like failure of imagination, I suppose. Yeah, these are the only ones I would stand by and say are good series. But I'm also curious what your interpretation of this would be. I'd be very interested to see other people's tier lists of series. If you haven't watched them, chuck them in NA. For me, of course, it's stuff that I don't remember or can't be, you know, can't be judged. This is the Mr. Samuel Streamer Rimworld series tier list maker. I'm sure I can find a link to it. In fact, this link at the top just straight up might work. So I'll copy that one. I'll drop it in the Discord. I'll ask people to do it, and let's get a conversation going. I want to compare and see what people have got going, and we'll go for it. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. See you all next time. Hope this was educational, because I think it's very much informed me in a lot of ways.